Wednesday, April 10th. Welcome into a little Ravens lunch hour live stream here inside the vault. I'm Bobby Trossett, joined by Sarah Ellison. As always, glad you're here. Lots to discuss throughout the course of the next hour. We'll begin with a very puzzling Mark Andrews proposal and plenty of discourse that we've seen online surrounding that. Some draft talk, of course. We're, 15 days out from opening night. So Bucky Brooks, Daniel Jeremiah, both have kind of targeted guys that they think could be there at 30th overall when the Ravens are selected to pick in the opening round. We'll talk a little bit about Keaton Mitchell and give you a reminder on his status based on what was asked during a press conference for Derrick Henry a few weeks back. Tough news, allegations-wise, that are out there about Terrell Suggs. Derrick Henry caught up with Rich Eisen a short while ago, and plenty more. But first, being that we are 15 days out from the 2024 NFL Draft, we're going to continue to remind you that tickets are available on Ticketmaster right now for our inaugural Marathon Draft Party live stream from Soundstage. We're working with our first ever legitimate concert hall venue, and Sarah's flying in from Columbus for this. As you guys probably know by now, $40 gets you in the front door. 7 o'clock is when things get started. Again, it's Thursday, April 25th. Clean Cuisine, one of my personal brand sponsors, will be there providing catering. There'll be a cash bar, giveaways, special guests, memorabilia. And, of course, you'll have a chance to hopefully interact with Sarah and I throughout the night. So can't wait for this, partner. Tickets are available in the show notes below.
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, can't wait for that night. Can't wait for the draft. I think Eric DeCosta's and the Liars Luncheon got me a little bit more amped. We are 2 weeks out, ready to keep building the Ravens. So, kind of first topic, Bobby. I've seen this kind of bubbling around for quite some time on Ravens Twitter, and then yesterday during our live stream, as we kind of watch comments go, it was a big topic of conversation during our show, at least in the comment section. And I just keep seeing it kind of get bigger and bigger. And then it just seen two guys kind of acknowledge it at the least. Cole Jackson, in front of the show, who we've had on here, he actually was just on the lounge talking about offensive linemen this last week. So Cole Jackson kind of is noticing the same trend we're seeing. Says a couple days ago, April 5th, the way this fan base talks about Mark Andrews is so puzzling. Ramey kind of quote retweets that. Imagine thinking it's illogical in any sense to trade Mark Andrews. So I've been looking for a compelling reason to trade Lamar, like the reasoning. I've been looking among, because it's more among the fan base. This has kind of been proposed and kind of coming up. Some of the things that I have read is they feel like Likely has more upside, which we'll talk about that. I think Likely is the upside is in the stars. So we'll talk about that. They also have said that Lamar focuses mostly on him and doesn't pay attention to other receivers when Mark Andrews is on the field. And then there's been some people talking about that you could maybe yield a high return, or maybe why not, like, since you have Likely coming up, which is probably the most logical, but I'll explain why it doesn't make sense right now. If you have Likely coming up and you really believe that he's like the next Mark Andrews, then it's like, why not get value out of Mark now, right, before his contract is up in 2 years? So that's kind of the best arguments that I've kind of heard. Just if there's other arguments there, you're welcome to bring it up in the comments here. So to me, this is absurd on many levels. While I understand everybody, those that are arguing, I think I understand the arguments. Hopefully I just articulated them right there. But let's just remind ourselves who Mark Andrews is, because he was injured from that hip drop tackle that we discussed yesterday. And, you know, sometimes you tend to forget what people do, or there was, you know, people said it was because Mark wasn't there that, like, Zay Flowers maybe could step up and Isaiah Likely's could step up. But let's just remember who Mark Andrews is, okay? If we're looking back since 2019, which was really his second year in the league, he is, and this is including him being out for most of last year, okay? He still, since 2019, is number 3 in receiving yards among tight ends.
Among two of the game's greatest.
Yeah, just behind Kelsey and Kittle. And he's not that far behind, by the way. Kittle is up by less than, if I'm reading that right, is that 3,800 and something?
It's
it's
not
even
yards.
100 yards. Yeah, it's less than 100 yards. Kelsey is...
Travis is on another planet.
Yeah, definitely another planet. Receptions, Mark Andrews is number 2 behind Kelsey since 2019. Receiving touchdowns, he's number 2, again, behind Kelsey in touchdowns. Okay. And then first downs, you got your stick mover. You've got the guy who you can rely on. They're on third down. You need to move the sticks. Again, Mark Andrews is number 2, only behind Travis Kelce. Okay. He had 40 touchdowns in his first 6 seasons. He's only one of 4 tight ends to do that since the 1970 merger, Bobby. Okay.
Yep.
He joins Antonio Gates, Jimmy Graham, and Rob Gronkowski. Okay. So it's not even that he's just good among the guys currently playing, but he's right up there with some of the greats. So I bring that up in kind of Isaiah Likely certainly has a ton of upside. I don't know that he's breaking that ceiling.
Why would you want to bank on it, right? Who wants to bank on that? You can have all the upside in the world. We haven't seen it yet. We've seen flashes.
We've seen plenty. I mean, one could argue if he got as many targets as Mark did, maybe he would hit that. And sure, maybe, but you're not going to surpass it, most likely. And you have both on your squad. And so I hope Isaiah Likely becomes this, but why not use both of them then? Okay. Yeah. So to me, it's like, just because Isaiah Likely might have this is Mark Andrews. And you don't just throw that out acting like for sure somebody else can replace it. Maybe he could, but it's not a for sure thing. And this is the argument many people make about not drafting wide receivers, but actually getting a sure thing. Mark Andrews is a sure thing. He is only 28, Bobby. He is not, this is still prime time for him. Okay. So the second
thing, he rushed his butt back to be available for the playoffs last year.
Oh.
He rushed, I'm sure, that process to get back from a brutal ankle injury. And Sarah, too, not to screw up your train of thought here.
No, go for it.
I really view Lamar Jackson as an elite, intermediate passer because of Mark Andrews. He has become dominant in the middle of the field and from an intermediate passing standpoint because of Mark Andrews, because of that connection, because of that off-schedule stuff, because of that street ball, right? The instincts that the two of them have with one another isn't something that just can be always replicated. Now, we saw some of that with Isaiah, and this is not a knock against Isaiah whatsoever, right? If anything, you and I, what we've talked about time and time again is we can't wait to watch the way in which Todd finds cohesion with both of them on the field. That's what we want to see. And so we're not knocking Isaiah Likely whatsoever. It's more so, how can you stack on what Mark Andrews is and will continue to be, assuming that he's going to make a full recovery from last year's injury?
Well, you brought up Lamar, and that kind of brings me to my next kind of point is people keep talking about help Lamar. And then all of a sudden you're going to take away his top target.
Far and away.
His favorite target based off of how often he goes there. And based off of him talking about Mark all the time, calling him Money Mark. That's my guy. And so it just doesn't make any sense to take him away from Lamar. If the Ravens announce tomorrow, we're trading Mark Andrews, and by the way, it had better be for another all-pro target, right? Yeah. We're talking about an all-pro target. I don't know who you're getting out there. You take Mark Andrews away, and it's just Lamar would not be a happy camper. So like give Lamar help. Oh, by the way, let's take away his favorite target, who he's talked about nonstop. Now, to your point, as we're on the Lamar discussion of this, there was an upside, right? And I think this is maybe where this is mostly stemming from. If you looked at the silver lining of Mark Andrews getting injured last year, is you did get to see what Isaiah Likely could do, and you did get to see what Zay could do, and you did see Lamar spread the ball out a little bit more, okay? So to me, what you're saying is if you don't have faith in Lamar Jackson and his ability to have his favorite target on the field and develop and evolve and bring in other guys too. You're saying, I want to take away Lamar's favorite target to force him to look at other people. Now, I think based off the way Zay and Isaiah Likely both kind of took that next step, that is on Lamar and Monken. Can't take Monken out to spread the ball. But you don't just take his favorite target to force him to do it. You challenge Lamar to do it. And I think he would easily be up. I think he's up to the challenge. I think he's up to the challenge to where he can get Isaiah, Mark, Zay, and then some others all involved. But you saying I have to take Mark away for Lamar to do that, that shows no faith in Lamar. And I have all the faith in the world that Lamar can do that.
How about the ROI in terms of the monetary side of things? Those that would point to what it could yield.
Is probably even if you didn't agree with anything I just said, this is the biggest. This is the biggest thing.
Not one aspect of it.
Yeah, let's look at the dead cap. Okay, the dead cap is the same whether you trade somebody or you cut somebody. In 2024, Mark is scheduled to count $16.9 million against the cap. If you cut or trade him, it's $15.8 million dead. You're saving $1 million.
Period.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You're going to take on $15.8 million in dead money just so that you could potentially get value down the road. Like that argument of where like, hey, you cut ties with Mark now by trading him because you can get value from him before he were to hit free agency, that's more of an argument next year because he'll be 16.9 again, but then the dead money would be 5.9. Still a lot, but nowhere near as much as it is this year. You can't put, because then whoever you trade him for, you're taking on their base salary.
That's right.
So let's say you traded him for Ayuk, okay, some dream scenario. Well, now you're paying the $15 million of dead money for Mark, and now you got to take on the base for Ayuk. Like, which is going to end up being way more than the 16.9 that Mark is.
Malpractice.
So it doesn't make any sense. If somebody were to bring it up next year and Mark had a declining year but still good, and Isaiah Likely was going up, and then the money makes more sense, then that argument would make more sense. But you like monetarily, it would be malpractice to do that right now.
To heck with the proposal, in other words. To heck with it. Adit checking in with a super chat donation. We appreciate you, Adit. If you trade Mark, you're one injury away from not having either Likely or Andrews. Plus, Mark's a glue guy. You don't get rid of him flippantly. We didn't even mention that. He's more, he is a glue guy for
He's
sure.
More than that.
And what he means internally, I think, can't even put a price tag on that either, especially the relationship that he and Lamar have. And I think in that tight end room. The fact that you have a tight end room in 2024 projected to be Mark, Isaiah, and Charlie. Top of the league.
Yeah.
Among the tops in the league. So
when you have a strength at a position, you lean into that strength. You don't take away from that strength. So anyway, let's move on.
Let's do it. And before we do, dive into more draft talk. As you heard at the top, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And just last night, this morning, it was like, the sun's coming up at like somewhere in the 6 o'clock hour, and I don't have blackout shades. And so it was getting a little bright for my liking, but I left my sleep mask here on the desk in my studio down the hallway from my bedroom. And I was like, wait, what's going on here? It's 6 a.m. Why am I already up? I walked right down here and then easily went to sleep immediately after for that last hour until I got up and walked my butt to the gym. Sarah. But anyway, Manta Sleep, proud sponsor. They give you 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. There's C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Zero pressures applied on your eyelids or lashes. They've got advanced materials and ventilation for unmatched breathability. That's the Manta Sleep Mask Pro that you see up on the screen. For the audio-only audience, you can go check it out in the show notes below. But this is the Manta Sleep Mask Pro. I know there's a couple of these floating around your household as well. If you're interested and you want to improve and enhance your sleep, use the link that we have included in the show notes. And at checkout, discount code VAULT10. That's VAULT10 gets you 10% off your next purchase. Draft talk. Let's get it.
Let's get it. So I felt like there were a couple kind of leftover two talking points we really didn't get to yesterday, and then we'll follow up with some of the stuff that DJ and Bucky Brooks had to say about the number 30 pick this year. So the first thing that was notable that we didn't get to yesterday was Eric DeCosta talking about how many draftable players there are in this year's draft. So I've heard him talk anywhere from like, we have 150, 175 draftable players. Then yesterday he said there were 100. That's a lot less. Let me pull this up here. Go one more slide. Okay. So yeah. So he said, what's the reason for that? He said, partly because of COVID, we're still seeing ripple effects of that. And then the NIL. So these guys are, while it's still not as profitable as if you came to the NFL and made, got paid on the rookie pay scale, you still can make a pretty decent amount of money. So if you're enjoying college and you're worried about providing for your family, well, you can make money on the college scene now, and you can maybe go one more time for a championship or whatever that is, and you want to graduate, and now you've got enough money to go ahead and sustain yourself and your family. So he says because of COVID and NIL, the whole draft landscape has changed. There's less players in the draft this year. There's less draftable players, less underclassmen. So you're seeing a lot more seniors. We've talked about the idea of getting to the later rounds of the draft. If there's nobody there that you covet, potentially trading that pick for a better pick. And that's when he revealed, Bobby, which we didn't get to yesterday, what do they call it? The Bishotti reign of terror.
That's hysterical.
which basically he's saying, if you have 100 draftable players and they're making their way up through fifth, maybe the sixth round because your guys are falling or whatever. But it's like, here I am in the seventh round, and there's just nobody that even has a draft grade for us. They all have undrafted, rookie free agent grades. Then he's like, then we're going to try to look to trade out. Now, if other teams have similar boards, though, they might be having the same thing. But the Bishotti reign of terror is this dream, okay, that if you trade a seventh this year for a sixth next year, which is basically what the Ravens did to get Andrew Voorhees, right? To get back in, they had to give a sixth rounder to get back into the seventh round. I think that was with Cleveland.
Yeah.
So then the next year you take that six and then you trade up and try to get to the fifth round. And then you keep doing that year after year. And then after 8 years, you trade your way up to a first round draft pick. Kind of like the idea that you start with a thumbtack, right? And somehow trade your way up. If you watch The Office, Dwight Schrute did this, right? With a thumbtack and turned it all the way up to a telescope. Okay. And then, yeah, if you see the episode, it's kind of funny how it ends, but I love that. The Bishotti reign of terror. But that lets you know only 100 draftable guys. So you gotta keep your expectations a little bit lower on these. Not that you already don't have it low on these 6th and 7th rounders, but now it could even be even lower.
I thought it was hysterical. I think the follow-up question was like, or maybe even Eric just finished that thought with being like, yeah, we just haven't quite embraced that yet.
Yeah. He's like, we talk about it all the time, but it hasn't quite, come about. No, somebody did follow up, and then he's like, yeah, that's why we call it, it's Bishotti, but it's also shoddy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's hysterical. Well, speaking of drafting and where they've been in recent years, philosophy-wise, over the last 5 years, there's not a team out there that spent more draft capital on wide receivers than Baltimore. And we've noted this in recent weeks. Eric DeCosta has taken 3 first-round swings himself since taking over for Ozzie on the position. The first was Marquise Hollywood Brown in his first ever draft as GM. The second was Rashad Bateman. And of course, last year was Zay Flowers.
Yeah, and that doesn't even count who are some of these. Okay, so Devin Duvernay in the 3rd round, James Prochet 6th round that year.
Yeah, Tylen
Wallace
somewhere.
the 4th round. Tylen Wallace the 4th round, and then nothing in 2022. But then, like you said, Zay Flowers. So it's those 3 first rounders plus. I mean, 3rd and 4th rounders; those are significant mid-round guys.
Right.
And so we have noted, Bobby, that they've had a lot. I just didn't know it was for sure number 1. And when you look at it like that, it's like, holy moly. So here's the question I have for you. Mm-hmm. Knowing that it's number 1.
Yeah.
I think I already know this because you said that you'd be shocked, right? Does this make
I said
more or less likely?
Yeah, I said stunned the other day. I mean, you could go either way in terms of what this list means for whether or not I feel good about that statement, but I'll stand by it just because of the depth in the class. But at the same time, you listen to Daniel Jeremiah more and more, and the way that board falls, the Ravens are going to stick to their philosophy.
Yeah.
And if there's a wide receiver who they feel like grading wise and evaluation wise in their room with all their area scouts, with everybody from everywhere personnel wise, is the best player available at that time, they've shown that they're not going to make a knee-jerk decision away from what they do. So I recognize that. At the same time, damn it, I don't necessarily want a first-round wide receiver. I think there's more pressing needs. I really do.
No, I would be mildly surprised. But let me just say this. Because not only with best player available, I think we agree offensive tackle is like the number 1 need, right? But
sure.
with the way Kyle Van Noy, that signing has kind of changed the landscape, I feel like there's an argument that wide receiver, cornerback, and edge rusher are all tied for like the next greatest need. Mm-hmm. But then to break that tie, you got to look towards 2024. And in 2024, you still have your 2 starting corners under contract, I do believe. And you still have, if you give the 5th-year option, you still have Odafe Owe and David Ajabo. Whereas, is Rashad Bateman still going to be here? I don't know. Nelson Aguilar is a 1-year deal. And so if you were going to 2024, the tiebreaker becomes wide receiver. And my point is if they if they're number 1, I think it's kind of like they're number 1 in compensatory picks, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, they're going to keep going for it. They're number 1 for a reason. It's part of their strategy. So there's a part of me that's like, if the Ravens keep their strategy that they're not going to pay wide receivers because maybe they think the money of what it takes to bring them in exceeds the value for them because they're still a run first team. And you just paid OBJ, and it was not worth taking Lamar outside of it. I mean, he helped get Lamar in the door, kind of like push that through over the finish line. But if we're talking just production, all OBJ would do then is reinforce to Eric DeCosta. Yeah, I'm not paying for wide receivers,
right?
So if that's really their strategy, then because of that, it wouldn't really shock me. Maybe that would just be an indication that they're going to continue doing that because everybody else is paying an arm and a leg through the cap. So maybe this is their strategy, just like it is compensatory picks. Well, so, whether it's 1st round or 2nd round, I could still see them because of 2024. You have even less guys that maybe they're going to keep trying to put them in the pipeline, So.
Keep taking your shots. I mean, you hit with Zay. Finally, you hit with Zay. Maybe they want to ride that momentum. I'm with you. Speaking of hits.
Sorry, one last thing we didn't have in here, but I just wanted to address really quick that we didn't address yesterday. He was asked about trading out of the 1st round from pick number 30. And we've discussed this because we discuss this every year when the Ravens are at the end of the 1st round. We're like, are the Ravens even going to have a 1st round draft pick? Or are we going to have to wait till day 2? The last time we had that discussion was when they got both Odafe Owe and Rashad Bateman. It was just like, because it's so close to the end. So it's only a couple picks away, right? If they wanted to trade back. So what what DeCosta said is ideally what's going to happen is one of the guys that we value in the top 20 will somehow slide, which happens to the Ravens almost every year. Like Kyle Hamilton being the latest iteration of that, even though it wasn't at the end of the draft. And so, what did he say here? He said if they don't have any must-have players, they could trade back. He said, however, because of that 5th-year option, which is reserved only for first-round picks, he said it would require a premium trade offer to move back. Now, he didn't say what that premium was, but say like, I don't know, like say like you're moving back to early 2nd round or whatever. Like, what do you mean by premium? Like, you're going to get that 2nd round pick. Are you talking like another future second? Are you, or is it a mid-round 2nd round guy and you want like another 2nd round in the future or 2/3 or whatever?
Yeah.
But it's like, that made me feel a little bit more like they wouldn't trade back. Like if you have a guy that's there that you kind of like and somebody's coming, all right, you better sweeten the pot, So
start throwing multiple picks at EDC and he hears the word multiple or he sees multiple. That might catch his attention.
Yeah.
So
anyway, we'll see. We'll see if he trades back. Who knows if that one is one of those smoke screens.
Well, there's a couple guys out there. But when it comes to
what you'd accept, you'd think you'd want that out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that. Definitely. You would want out there. Here's if you're gonna call, come with the sweet deal.
Definitely. Yeah. And he'll be listening. We've been listening to a lot of Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks and their content on Move the Sticks, their podcast. Of course, DJ is a former Ravens scout. Both of those guys are zeroing in on prospects, one each in particular, for the Ravens at 30. We'll begin with Daniel Jeremiah's latest.
The options that the Ravens will have available to them, do you think, down there at the bottom of the 1st round?
Well, first of all, who they're going to pick, we're not going to know because it'll be a great player we're never going to think in a million years is going to fall in their lap, and inevitably it happens. That's the way it works in Baltimore under Ozzie and under Eric. But I'm going to go with Amarius Mims as a realistic opportunity here from Georgia. I think there's a chance he gets down there, the big hulking tackle. Look, if this was next year and he had a chance to go through a full season as a starter and didn't just have those 8 games that we have now to watch, I think he's a top 10, top 15 pick. So there could be a real value at this point in time with him entering into this draft class. Wasn't able to stay healthy all the way through the combine. But the Ravens love a couple things. They love big guys and love beating people up, and he does both.
You think about offensively, I love that pick, and I love the fact that there'd be some familiarity with Monken having spent time at Georgia. But let's.
Okay.
So it's interesting. So he comes back to Mims again. Remember, I think that was his mock draft 1.0. He put Mims. He changed it up, I think, just because he likes to change it up here and there. But now he's coming back to Mims again. And one of the reasons why Mims could fall is that lack of experience, right? Because I've seen so many mock drafts where Mims is gone. He's gone before number 30. And so it's you don't have a lot of experience that could push him back. But where the Ravens have an edge over other teams is Todd Monken knows him.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So even though you don't have that game tape of, more than 8 games, Todd Monken could speak to him better than just about anybody in the NFL.
So 7 games last year with 6 starts at right tackle. He suffered an ankle injury and had tightrope surgery before returning for the final 3 regular season games. He is 6'8", 340 pounds, junior offensive tackle for Georgia. He's built like a truck. So that's something to look out for. Obviously, DJ has a great feel and a pulse for what the Ravens are about. Here's Bucky Brooks on the other side.
On the other side of the ball, because the Ravens have done this time and time again. They find a defensive player that kind of fits their identity. Derrick Robinson from Missouri is a guy that I would think it kind of plays the way that the Ravens like their guys to play. Feisty, competitive, has some versatility, hard-working player, kind of like a hard hat and a lunch pail type coming off the edge. And when you see him play, man, you see the physicality and toughness that you traditionally see in Baltimore Ravens picks. if he's available down there at the bottom of the first round, he could be the selection because he certainly adds a little element to their defense that they need.
All right, so Darius Robinson, 6'5", 285, defensive end from Missouri, senior, ran a 4.95 in the 40. Last year, he was first team All-SEC, led the team with 14 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. He started 12 games, played a little bit more edge than in previous years, and was a team captain. So definitely some things there that stick out for what the Ravens could be looking for character-wise and also production.
Here's what's funny. Remember yesterday we talked about Eric DeCosta was asked about the pass rushers, and he called it an average pass rush class. Now, I don't think that means there's nobody in there that's good. I don't think he's calling every guy average. I think what he's saying, it's average in terms of depth or in terms of like top, talent or whatever. So, but it was interesting because being at pick number 30, they're not going to be in the market for they're not even in the chance or conversation for a top tier guy. So yesterday he said that they're going to have to find a sweet spot in this average draft class. He goes, quote, "The challenge for us will be who's the next tier group of guys in that sweet spot between the 25th player." So he's basically saying at number 30, it's already second tier. Okay. So he's saying, for the next tier group of guys, the sweet spot between the 25th player to the 45th that we have a chance to get either at 30 or at 62. But I was like, are you basically saying like you want one in the top 2 rounds? Like I couldn't understand what he was saying. He got so detailed here that this is where, like yesterday I was saying, hey, there's some truth to it. You know what I mean? Like when he said there's a strong possibility we'll draft a running back at some point. Well, yeah, okay.
Feel good about that. Yeah.
Right. I feel good about that. Or I can't remember what else he said, but or he also said that there was like a chance of getting a cornerback. Yeah, okay, I feel pretty good about that. But where he started to get all detailed, and he's like, it's average, and they're going to be second tier guys by the time we're like 25th or 30th. Then we need to get a chance at 62. Like
radar's going
where
off.
Where are we at
like,
here? Yeah. He also said, hey, but we've also had success in the mid range, which I assume he's talking about in the 3rd and 4th round, maybe 5th. We got Judon in the 5th, Zadarius Smith in the 4th or whatever. But like, I was like, this is one of those ones where I'm like, there's some smoke in here. There's some smoke going around in here.
Right. There's certain things that like that detection starts going off, that radar starts going off with when he starts getting very specific or in this case, like pointing about using the word average.
Yeah.
Strong chance, even though the strong chance matches up. So
yeah.
Anyway.
But he also said, though, he gave clues to how he lies. He's like, you can't lie all the time, like otherwise everybody's just like everything you say, it's not true. So he's like, you got to tell the truth sometimes and then just slip in lies here and there. So
too funny. Thanks to Greg in the live chat for getting everybody a reminder here to get those likes up. If you enjoy our content, you've been enjoying this live stream. We do daily content, Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We're tinkering with a new format this offseason. Please like the video and subscribe to us on the Vault if you haven't already done so. We are available, as always, in the audio-only space as well. Yesterday, on Tuesday, we did a segment towards the end of the show that was essentially following the annual Ravens pre-draft press conference. And the segment was questions we would have asked had we been there, a part of the local media contingent. And then I heard from a local media member last night, actually, who apparently got back to him, whoever told him this, felt like that segment was criticizing local media and local reporters for the questions they did not ask. Now, this media member, we've been friends for a long time, and I kind of got the sense that he was a little upset based on what he had heard. He hadn't listened to the show, though, so I hope if he had, it would have been pretty clear that we're always incredibly grateful and acknowledging, I'd like to think, of the difficult job that local reporters have. Beat reporters in particular, not just in football, but in all of professional sports, are the pulse. And quite frankly, we couldn't do what we do to the degree of what we try to do without their work. The amount of times that we share beat reporters' work on here allows the show to go in a lot of ways. And so I just wanted to be abundantly clear that we appreciate them, That was not a shot taken at them whatsoever. At the same time, we did feel like there were some questions that could have been asked that weren't. Just to clarify, the Keaton Mitchell discussion and his timetable was addressed at the Derrick Henry press conference, and this is what Eric DeCosta had to say. Bo Smoka of Pressbox asked about the timetable of Keaton's return, and EDC said, and this was the full question, knowing that he's out for some time, is the search still on to add another running back into the mix for the first part of the season? Again, this is at Derrick Henry's introductory press conference. EDC says yes. I think Keaton's doing really well. We'll see. Obviously, it was a significant knee injury, but we have some experience with that. I've gotten some updates from our trainers and doctors, and we feel like he's on path to come back at some point this season. Running back wise, we'll assess the market like we always do. There are some players out there still that are pretty interesting players. The draft is another way for us to get better, and we'll attack it in different ways depending on the situation and depending on the value that we see. We've drafted guys. We've signed undrafted free agents. We've traded for running backs. And there are a lot of ways to skin the cat, so to speak. So we'll look at it. We feel really good about Justice Hill. Justice was one of the unsung heroes of our team, I would say, in 23. So the cupboard's not bare. We got this guy pointing to Derrick. So again, I think I may have mentioned it in passing, but I would have liked a follow-up, even though it was asked a few weeks back, while the topic of conversation on running back came up and EDC said that there was a, quote, strong chance that they will pick one. I would have at least used that opportunity instead of waiting till OTAs and the next time, whether it's in May or the next time they get him, to at least just follow up. This reporter disagreed with me, and they're going to wait till OTAs and whatever the next media session is.
Yeah, I definitely want more of an update. I overlooked that they had talked about it in the King press conference, probably because he didn't really give an answer. He said, I've gotten some updates from trainers, doctors, and will feel like he's on a path to come back at some point this season. Like, that's not really an answer. So I agree. I think the follow-up needs to go to John Harbaugh, though. As much as John Harbaugh doesn't give injury information during the season, he's much more open about it during the off season. And so whatever, it wasn't asked yesterday. At the next OTAs, I would like somebody. I mean, I'm not giving any orders or anything. This is just a segment. Like, what would we ask? If I were there at OTAs and John Harbaugh was there, I would ask him specifically, not EDC, John, what the update is and what's the general timeline. Because he has given those answers before. Like, he has given, like, he'll often say, which I don't expect it to be this early, but he'll often say, oh, OTAs, oh, training camp, oh, beginning of the season, oh, mid-season, like at least that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like this, where it's like at some point during the season. I mean, that could be December. So like, and then he said it was a serious injury, but I thought Harbaugh in the past also said it was a clean kind of ACL, which is very different from the one that J.K. Dobbins had. So I think there's some clarity to be had, but yeah, in no way was I thinking we were taking a shot. It was just questions that I would have asked.
Yeah. Just to reiterate once more, not to go, all out here, but having been in those rooms, right? Those podiums, those press conference rooms that you and I have sat in, you a lot longer than I did, but we get it. Those are high pressure situations. You're under significant time constraints. PR is staring at you in some cases based on what you want to ask. And it's easier said than done.
It's way easier said than done. You can
difficult.
Get slammed. But it's not even that you're worried about being slammed. You want to get information out of them with your question.
Yes.
And if you ask like anything flippant or was recently asked or like then it's a wasted opportunity, especially in these draft ones when there's more reporters there and you only get so many. And then you have to phrase it in a way where they actually give you information. Otherwise, what was the point of your question? So it 1000% is harder than I think most would think it is.
And so every time,
although it's not impossible, this isn't rocket science.
It's not impossible. And John Harbaugh has become a master of the way that I don't want to call it manipulation, but he has groomed, right? His job as a head coach essentially is to groom the media that he speaks with on a weekly basis. And he's done a pretty dang good job of doing that. I can even remember too, as like a first year radio personality walking in there and getting Wink even put me to sleep on a couple questions that I had. It's tough.
I've
It is
seen people
difficult.
they will body slam some bad
Oh, yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Oh,
And
for sure.
and then you got to go back. Here's the other thing. Like people will be like, well, who cares? But like, if you can't get people to talk to you, then you don't have a job.
Yes.
And so it's always this balance of like, okay, well, I got to go back tomorrow and ask another question. And so like you build a relationship of trust over time. And if you like ruin that with a bad question, then they're just going to be colder to you in the future. Like whether it's consciously or subconsciously, like you have to get them to talk day in and day out, and balancing that over time takes some finesse.
Yep. So anytime we do that segment, just know it's coming from a place of, I would say, constructiveness rather than, criticism in those lines. So anyway, just wanted to make sure we covered that based on yesterday. You've got some cap looks here at Van Noy numbers. Is that right? KVN's
so just
numbers?
basically, yeah. So let's go full screen on this one. So this one, Brian McFarland updated the cap with that. And so if you look up at the top, it's the present salary cap. So the Ravens have about 9.2 million in salary cap right now, including Van Noy's deal. Now, what I like about what Brian McFarland does is he also says, but here's the built-in costs that there's no getting around that the Ravens are going to have to spend.
Yep.
So he's talking about, the rookie draft class, the rule of 51, Odell Beckham Jr.'s post-June release will have to kick in, all that kind of stuff with it. And then future expenses that the Ravens are going to need to have, practice squad, in-season injuries. So so there's still about, how much does he have here? 10 million for the rookie class, another, let's see here, 6 million for in-season money that you need for trades or injuries, all yada, yada, yada. So when you add in the built-in expenses that they will not avoid having to spend, then the Ravens technically are under by 6 million. So he's saying for now, because you're 9 million above, you're fine through like May or June. But then once it all kicks in, then you're still going to. So people keep saying, hey, the Ravens can restructure contracts and get a bunch of money to go sign X person. It's like, yeah, that's true, but they're going to have to restructure contracts anyway. So they are going to have to, dig into, I don't know, any one of these guys. There's Lamar, who I'd prefer not to restructure, only because his cap hit is going to explode anyway, continue to go up. Marcus Williams, you can get 7 million there. Roquan Smith, just 3 million. Mark Andrews, you could get about 3 million. Marlon Humphrey's a place, about 8 million, but I think they've already been there a few times. Justin Tucker, you could get about 1.7 million. So yeah, so it's not, there's definitely room for the Ravens to still make some veteran moves. They are going to have to restructure anyway. It's just how much you're going to want to kick down the road. So not the worst position, but it's still just not a ton of money.
Check out Brian's work on Twitter or X at Raven Salary Cap. He also puts together pieces in writing form on RussellStreetReport.com. The birthday boys, the annual day of the year where you just wonder, how did these guys get born on the same day and be within this organization? Like, this is crazy. Eric DeCosta, Ravens general manager, and of course, longtime owner Steve Bisciotti, both have birthdays today.
All right, so what's your guess? How old is Eric DeCosta? I just Googled it.
Oh, goodness. You put me on the spot. His oldest is a junior at Penn State.
Look at
you. And Lacey let's see. He was at Colby.
You're putting
College.
in way more thought than I thought you were going to do.
He was at
I
Colby.
thought I was going to be like, hey, what's his age? And you're going to like, boom, how about this?
I know, right? Oh, Eric's probably 51, 52.
It's pretty close. 53.
53.
Okay, what do you got for Steve Bisciotti? You only have 5 seconds this time.
Steve, I really don't know this one at all because he's the ageless wonder. Steve will go with 64.
Oh, you nailed it.
I did?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm not. I didn't look up anything. People are probably thinking, "Hey, put yourself on the screen. Put yourself on the screen." I didn't look at anything.
Here, you're on the
That's
screen.
crazy.
There we go.
That's crazy.
Hilarious.
All right, not too bad. But happy birthday to
Happy
both
birthday to these
Ravens key figures within the Ravens overall operation. A former key figure is in the news for all the wrong reasons, and that is Terrell Suggs. He was arrested in Arizona, according to TMZ Sports. Jail records show that he was booked late Tuesday night on 2 charges, 1 count of assault and 1 count of offense against public order. A spokesperson for the jail tells TMZ, who, of course, played college football at Arizona State. He's since been released. Further details surrounding the allegations against him were not made immediately available. They are allegations, but obviously not the type of storyline that you want to be sharing about T-Sizz.
Not it, but I have no idea of what went on there, so I have no commentary whatsoever. But obviously, yeah, you don't like to see that come up, and especially, as you get older and mature, who knows what the surrounding circumstances are. So we'll follow up with any new news that we see there, but hopefully everybody is safe and everybody is well. And I have no idea what happened.
I was going to say, any further comment from either one of us would probably be disingenuous other than just stating the facts of what we know. Speaking of facts, this is happening tonight. Orioles' #1 overall prospect, Jackson Holliday, is officially making his major league debut after spending the first couple weeks at AAA and just raking for the Norfolk Tides. Cal Ripken Jr., Orioles Hall of Famer, tweeting out earlier today that the Ripken family is thrilled that Jackson will be wearing his father's number 7 for the first time since he passed. Excited to watch him play. For those of you who've been around in the Baltimore area for a while, you know how special this is. Again, the number 7 hasn't been worn by an Oriole since Cal Ripken Sr. passed. The last player to wear it was Billy Ripken, Cal's brother. So this is a special day for Birdland, Sarah. Obviously, special day for this next era, this next chapter within the Orioles. This new reignited, rejuvenated club that has new leadership at the top and just a ton of talent sprinkled all throughout. And man, it's almost, I kind of want you and Gardy to come back at some point this summer so I could take you to a game. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah, we went to a game last year. It was the walk-off home run against the Yankees.
Yeah, I think that was
on a rain night,
if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, yep, it was. I got it on my phone and I posted it. It was the atmosphere was electric. Did I sense some sarcasm from you when you retweeted this news last night?
A little bit.
You're ticked off that they waited 2 weeks?
Well, so it didn't end up becoming service time manipulation, which a lot of people kind of felt like it was based on the club's decision to not have him on the opening day roster. If they had waited until April 12th, the day of or day after, it would be service time manipulation. But they brought him up prior to that. And I think some of that had to do with some of the struggles in the infield and towards the end of the lineup. So they designated Tony Kemp for assignment, who was brought in just for a couple weeks. Now they're bringing him up. I feel like that storyline should now go into, exile or whatever. But yeah, I would have I just felt like the guy was so friggin' ready.
Yeah.
And he was their best possible option. And they started talking about things like they were trying to avoid him from seeing some of the lefties that the Orioles were going to see pitching wise because he's had some struggles or inconsistencies with lefties throughout his time. And they were scheduled to see a bunch of them the first couple weeks. And then they talked about like defense wise at second base, like he could get better at there with the lack of experience. So anyway, point is, he's here now. He's making his debut tonight in Boston. He's going to be wearing number 7. And this is just a really, really special time for Baltimore.
It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah. We got a couple super chats to
and don't forget Derrick Henry. We got one last thing from Derrick Henry.
And Derrick Henry as well. Thank you. Yeah. I've been hopping around once we get to quick hits the last couple of days. But Rich Eisen, NFL Network's Rich Eisen, had a chance to catch up with Derrick and talked about a couple of different things, including another team that was rumored to be interested in him, but that didn't end up being the case, apparently. Here's King.
Did the Cowboys never ring your phone up, Derrick Henry? That never happened?
Never happened. Okay. Which I'm not mad. because I ended up in Baltimore, so it worked out
No.
perfect for me.
And I totally understand, why, me even poking around could be viewed by you in any way, shape, or form as, or for anybody out there to take it that, you might not be happy with the way things worked out. Obviously you are, and it's apparent why, because they love running the ball and more do they love the style that you bring to the game. But, Cowboy fans were dreaming of you with a star on the side of your helmet. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff out there talking about me wanting to go to the Cowboys and quotes from the Pivot podcast I did, but just to make things clear, I wanted to be a Raven. They were my number one choice. Like I said before, I didn't know going into free agency if they would still be interested, which they were, and I was happy that they were because that's where I wanted to go. I felt like they fit me. Their culture fits my style. And if they wasn't, then I felt like the Cowboys would have been a good place for me as well because I stayed in the off season. I've been here for a long time. I trained here, so it was right down the street. So that's why they would have been another option. And they're a great organization as well. But I ended up at the right organization with the right team. I have a great coach. I have a great culture, and I'm excited for the opportunity.
That's interesting, Sarah, because solely based on the convenience alone, now that you know some of the geography involved with what his offseason looks like, that you could see why Dallas would be enticing for him.
Yeah, like and also because he said, like, for the record, the Ravens were my number one choice and all that. But for the record, I don't care. It's kind of like with Jadeveon Clowney. He went back home. Like, that's where he's from. That's where his family is. And if it was enticing to him to go to Dallas, who in the NFC is also always a playoff contender and, have things going on for them and needed a running back, and he's been hanging out there and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, if that was intriguing to him and maybe even made him want to go there a little bit more, I don't care, because at the end of the day, he's a Raven. Dallas never called him. Ravens did. He's happy with where he's at. And my goodness, it still is fun to say Derrick Henry is a Raven and is going to be sharing a backfield with Lamar Jackson.
Enough said. Let's circle through some more super chats that have come in here before we close out the show. Dre Dog, who told me that he's driving up from somewhere in the South. I'm forgetting now on the spot, but he DM'd me about this yesterday. Dre Dog 679 is driving up from, like, I want to say the Carolinas or maybe even Atlanta for our draft party, which is friggin' awesome. Thank you for the commitment.
Make sure you come and introduce yourself then.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We'll definitely make some time to chat with you, Dre. But he says you don't get rid of blue chip players. Mark Andrews is that. This is going back to our first topic today. Call Belichick. Tell him to give you the playbook from the Aaron Hernandez and Gronk years.
Or can we, Bill Belichick, he doesn't have a job right now, right?
You know what's
we
really
make him
interesting?
the tight ends coach?
He
would never accept it, obviously, but.
What's really interesting is I just saw something go viral yesterday, I think it was. Matt Rule, former Panthers head coach, had a cup of coffee really in the NFL. He is now with Nebraska, and Bill came and worked with him for the day. And I saw that clip go viral. Like Matt was just in awe of Bill and what he's about. It was actually kind of funny. It was after like 3.5 hours. I think it was in a film room or something along those lines, working with the team. And Matt's like, hey, coach, can I get you a cup of coffee or water? Or you want to take a bathroom break? And Bill looks at him in that same face, right? That same dry, super serious, stoic face. And he goes, I'm all good, Matt. Thanks. And Matt in the press conference is like, okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Did he mumble it? I'm all good, Matt. Thanks. He's always mumbling.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Trey.
No. Yeah. And could you imagine people saying, hey, trade away Gronk?
No.
I'm sure the NFC North would love it. Trademark. Yes,
right?
Please.
Pay the bills. Thanks for the donation. We appreciate you. Mark Andrews' playoff stats tells you all you need to know. I think they've been a little bit suspect, so he might be on the other side of wanting to get rid of Mark, but have to dig into that a little bit more.
No, it's definitely it, and I do know that there has been some clutch catches that Mark didn't get or didn't reel in, but it still doesn't, in my mind, outweigh all that he's done at all.
And remember too, he was obviously unavailable for the divisional round. And I guess he got back for the AFC Championship game, but he was not much of a factor.
No. Well,
not
and
much of a factor
it would have been unfair to expect him to be a big factor.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Sean Turner wants to know where I got the Maryland wood flag, the wooden
Oh yeah,
flag
your
behind me.
guy.
And I want to be sure to give Dave some love. And I appreciate you asking, Sean, because this gives me a chance to kind of promote what Dave's up to. And he is so incredibly talented. Dave Taylor's 3D wood art. Dave offers, and for those of you in the audio only space, you can find Dave's work on social media, in this case on Twitter or X at DT 3D Wood Art. That's his handle, at DT 3D Wood Art. If you just Google Dave Taylor's 3D Wood Art, all of his different sites will come up as well. He's big on Instagram. He's big on a number of platforms, including Facebook. And he was kind enough to put together a customized Maryland flag for me to kind of finalize the backdrop of my new studio space here in Canton. So that's where I got it, Sean.
I'm
Appreciate
looking
you
at some of
asking.
his
And
stuff. I still need to get some stuff.
for sure.
Yeah.
And he wants to work with you too. So that's a definite. Steven, thanks for the donation. Is there truth to the rumor about trading our first round pick for the Raiders 44th and 77th per Jeff Zarebek, or was that clickbait? I haven't seen that. Did he put together?
I have not seen that. Is that?
We'll have to dig into that.
Well, I'll just say this: I went through Jeff's tweets, including replies, this morning heading into. I probably checked it at 10:30. I didn't see anything from Jeff saying anything like that. If it has been since 10:30, that is news to me.
Yeah. Okay. Steven, if you want to hit us up via email or DM or whatever after
Would
we
that
get off
also
the
be
show.
a question for Jeff?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We don't read as much as we probably should because he's the best of the best. We don't read every single aspect of what he does.
I'm pretty close to 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Well,
wouldn't
that
say
doesn't
100.
surprise me though. You always
I'm up there. Yeah.
You're a content gatherer. Killer. What else do we have? Another one from Steven. Just ripping it right now. Thank you for the donation.
Steven.
Is there any world where Lamar restructures his contract to make sure he's surrounded by more talent like Mahomes, Brady, etc.?
Of course, there is definitely a world to do that. I'm curious where Steven falls on the trade Mark Andrews conversation, because that would only be taking weapons away from him. But is it a likely Ravens world where Eric DeCosta kicks money down the road to bring in I don't know, whoever you want? I don't think that's likely. That's just not who Eric DeCosta has ever been.
Yep. Thanks for the love though, Steven.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. And appreciate everybody. It's time for us to run. And before we do, with all 2,200 plus concurrents of you right now, just a reminder, our inaugural draft event's coming up at Soundstage in downtown Baltimore. First ever in-person legitimate thing that we've done with a venue. It's Thursday, April 25th, coinciding with opening night of the draft. 7 o'clock is the kickstart. $40 gets you in the door. That includes premium tailgate buffet options through one of my brand sponsors at Clean Cuisine, who are coming over to the vault for the night. Looking forward to seeing them and having you guys get a chance to take a look at their awesome, awesome food. There will be a cash bar. We will have special guests. We will have memorabilia giveaways and a number of other fun aspects getting ready for the 30th overall selection that night. Sarah's flying in from Columbus for it, and we hope to see you guys there.
Listen, man, where else are you going to be on draft night? In your living room? Don't do that.
Right?
Get over to Soundstage. Come and get some dinner. Come and enjoy the draft with some good vibes. And would love to interact with as many of you as possible. So get your tickets, click the link, and let's go. We're 2 weeks out. Let's go.
Yeah. 15 days. Tomorrow marks 2 weeks, so it's coming. And Sarah and I are going to start really sinking our teeth into the way this content's going to come together that night, and we'll have more announcements along those lines. So it would mean the world for us if you could come out. Doesn't have to be the whole night. Can even be a portion of the night. Come grab a bite to eat and come support us and continue to help us. And
start showing up. Pick 15. You got to be in there at least.
Yep. So more to come. More to come. Partner, appreciate you as always. We appreciate our brand sponsor, Manta Sleep. Go check them out at mantasleep.com by visiting the show notes below. And at checkout, if you use code VAULT10, that's VAULT10, you'll get 10% off your next purchase. So we will talk to you in 23 hours from right now. A little Thursday Ravens lunch hour live streams on deck for tomorrow. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. We'll talk to you guys.